Alright, well, what is up guys? This is Max Square, and I just want to make sure everything's working. Perfect. Sweet, well, it looks like we got a couple people. Hope your Saturday is going well. Gosh, I always forget where to look. There are cameras up there, but like, if y'all could see this, there are like 5 different versions of me. I have a preview and a program feed for my stream. I've got Premiere open with a freeze frame that looks very much, well, it's me, but wearing a shirt exactly like this. And then I have YouTube going over there, and I got my phone as well, just like watching the stream back in case anything changes. So it's a little crazy. Let me know how things are going with sound. If the music's too loud, I'll probably turn it down once we get into the tutorial. But yeah, how y'all doing? It's May 5th, so some of you are students, I know, so I'm not really sure finals may be over for you. I just finished last Friday, so I'm officially on summer break, but I know some of y'all still have a couple finals left, and I know that can be tough, so my thoughts and prayers are with you all. Let me just double check this is all good. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll get started around 12:30. We got like 2 or 3 minutes left, but yeah. So today I really wanted to go over my process for editing videos. I realized I haven't really done a video on this, especially not recently, because my process has changed so much. And you know, now that I have video in my videos, you know, I'm filming myself. That adds a whole nother level of editing. So I wanted to go over what I call my 4-stage editing process or workflow. And hopefully this will help you if you make videos on your own and just in general with your editing tips. We're gonna be using Premiere. I have kind of switched, I'm not officially not using ScreenFlow. I still use it for my videos, but it's not what I'm using to edit. And we'll get into that in a minute or two. But yeah, so I'll pretty much kind of fly through this. This will be like a 10 or 15 minute tutorial, maybe 20 minutes, and then I'll leave the last couple minutes for questions. If you can, just to speed things up, if you have a question or a suggestion or anything like that, any feedback, drop it in the chat as soon as you can. That way, by the time I get to it, I can just go down the list and read them all. So, awesome. If my face seems a little stiff or my cheek is a little swollen or whatever, that is because I had to go back to the doctor. I got my wisdom teeth out, as you may know, like a month ago, and everything was fine, and then a couple days ago it just started hurting again. I ended up having to go back in. I had to do some minor surgery again, so I'm still kind of recovering from that, but you know, I got to make that live stream. We got to make it happen. So cool. Well, let's go ahead. What time is it? Cool. We can go ahead and jump into this. Let's transition straight away. So everything should be good. I just want to make sure. Cool. I just want to make sure that the music isn't playing over that, because it can sometimes be a little distracting. So yeah, so what we're going to be talking about is my 4-stage editing workflow. Now I am going to kind of steal from, I think his name is Matty Hapoya. He was originally called Travel Feels until he changed the channel to his own name. But he had a really great video on how to set up your footage and arrange it really neatly. And so I just think he broke it down really well. And this might not be new to some of you, but the way he kind of broke it down is he arranges all of his footage into 5 different folders, or all of the media that he's going to be using into 5 different folders. So he has a footage folder, so that's obviously all the footage he shot, whether that be, you know, on a camera, or if that's going to be maybe some intro pieces or anything like that. And then graphics will be any logos and stuff, and music, obviously music. I like to put sound effects in here as well if I'm using any. And then you can put all your project files in one place, and then you have a renders folder. So this is everything you render and export out of whatever you're using to edit. And I think, you know, some of you may think that these folders are a little over the top. I mean, especially for me, like if you go to my content here, you can see I'm using a similar version of this. And it might seem over the top, but it's really getting you in the habit of sorry, there's like people outside. It's getting you in the habit of editing really well, and to, you know, if one day you're passing it on to another editor, they can follow along. It's not, you know, trying to look through different versions of project files or trying to find the asset. You know, you've linked to something that was in your downloads, they don't have it on their downloads, it just can get messy. So ideally, you know, if I were to pass this, this is a project from my vlog, if I were to pass day 5 of my Cali trip to someone else to edit, I could literally just compress this up, hand it over to them, and they have one file or one folder with everything they need. You can kind of vary this, but really, like I said, footage is going to be all your main clips. This is a little disorganized, like I said, because I am doing it just for myself, so no one's going to see this, but ideally this would be your footage. You know, if you've shot multiple days, you would put footage, day 1, 2, 3, or whatever, and then inside of each day, you would put the type of the camera. So, you know, you can kind of mess around with that as you need it. And then project files, because I use ScreenFlow to capture my screen, I have a ScreenFlow folder or project file right there. And then I have my Premiere file. And what's nice about Premiere is it does actually group all of the autosave and previews with the actual file itself. So it's not going to be, you know, spread out across different locations or anything like that. You just give me 1 second. Gotta love it when people come over to mow the lawn right outside your window. Hopefully that's not too loud for y'all. Just let me know if it is. Let's see here. So yeah, and then project files. Now, here's one thing where you can see I don't have like a graphics or music folder here. That's because I always use the same graphics. For Mac Square stuff, if I go to my video resources, I have under my intro and outro, that's always in that folder. And then for my music, you know, all of that music is always under the Z audio folders. So that never changes. That's why for my Mac Square stuff, I don't have those 2 folders. But again, it kind of varies on your own setup and your own workflow. But yeah, so that is really crucial. And I think what's nice about this is even for your own workflow, just having these folders is really nice. But I think you all get the idea. And then what I actually do next, so that's kind of stage 1 in my opinion. Part of that is that you want to replicate that hierarchy and that setup inside of Premiere, Final Cut, whatever you're using, ScreenFlow. It's a little bit difficult to do it in ScreenFlow because you don't really get as much. And I think you can do a list view for all your media and stuff, but it's not as easy to see. But as in here, this folder, this is the I believe this is the video I did for Curiosity, that app review I just did. Yeah, so this is a Curiosity review, the app that makes you smarter. And you can see that I've kind of replicated that. So I have assets, and now assets is like my intro, and it's you know, I had that HQ trivia song in there if you watch the video, and then I had like another picture I used, and then footage I actually broke down into my video, so my Fuji stuff, and then ScreenFlow actually included my audio and the iPhone, and then music was just the music I used. So, excuse me. That's kind of step 1 in my opinion. Get all your footage organized. It's so crucial to get it, you know, in a really simple format, especially inside of Premiere. And then step 2 is what I call, so that's assembly is what I think I'd call step 1. Step 2 is what I would call storyline. So this is where you're literally just piecing together the footage. So what I'm actually going to do is usually when I start making the sequence, I actually just drag the clip. So I use Fuji stuff. I'm shooting in 4K at 24 frames per second. Is I just take one of those clips and I drag it to the new sequence, and then that way it actually creates a sequence based on that clip. So I'll just call this test sequence so you guys can see. Excuse me. So then, you know, another way to do that is just create the sequence and then drag the footage in, and it'll ask you if you want to change the settings. You can do that too. And so I just drag all the footage in. Now, because I am syncing this all up with ScreenFlow and trying to get my actual audio, not just from the camera, then what I'll do is I'll bring in the ScreenFlow audio, But if I have my iPhone or if I have my screen, I try and keep them together. And that's because, obviously they were recorded at the same time. So when you're cutting stuff, you want it to be together. So I take all three of those clips. And the reason there's multiple Fuji clips here is that it's just a dumb thing with this camera. You can't record more than like 15 minutes. So it just keeps going over. And so what I would do is I would take those clips and you can just say synchronize to audio. Then that way the audio is going to be perfectly in sync. You can see I'm pretty good about starting it at the same time, so it's not too far off. And then you could just ripple delete these guys, and then there's no delay between here. So let's just jump over here. So yeah, so that's kind of just getting the sequence ready to go, and then really, like I said, I would really just go through, and I like to get all the video stuff down first. My reasoning for that is it's much more obvious when you when you do like a jump cut in video than it is on the screen. It's still gonna be obvious if you're like changing apps or something, like the color goes from like a dark gray interface to like something bright, white or red or something. That's gonna be obvious, but it's less obvious than if you were to, have a jump cut. So I'm like over here and then I'm like talking, my hands are up or something. So what I like to do is actually disable the screen flow layer. So whether that be my iPhone or my screen, and then I just take these two, I'll mute the audio from the camera, and I'll just take these clips. I always select everything so that at any point I can jump to the screen flow clip and it's, same spot. And I'll literally just watch this back. Have you ever been at... So let's say I like start right there, trim it up right there, ripple delete that so it starts the beginning, and then you just kind of go through the video. So this whole step is purely just getting the media where you want it. So there's no mistakes. You got all the jump cuts where you want them to be, and I wouldn't worry about color correcting. I wouldn't worry about background music and pretty much any other effect that you're gonna use. I don't even use transitions in this step. This is purely just getting the story, I call it the storyline step, just getting the story in place. So if you were to watch this back, let's just say I was finished, then you would be happy with the whole video, and if you had to show it to someone, you could, because it would make sense. And then you can go back in the next two phases and start to tighten stuff up. So one thing that I always do is I have an intro here. So have you ever been at a party? And this is going to be a few takes because I always make mistakes. Or in a group somewhere where there's always someone. Have you ever? A lot of mistakes, but let's say that that's like where the intro is, and I finish that. Then I would go over and I grab my Z video. I grab my intro here, and just zoom out. Now I am shooting 4K, and this intro is 1080. So what I'll usually do is just say scale to frame size, and that fixes that. So let's say that's the intro, and then the intro would start. So you still want to get everything in place. So you can add your assets. So like if you're gonna have an iPhone and then you're gonna have a screen recording or screen capture, whatever, you still add those all in there in the storyline phase before adding effects. So you can still do all that. But then and I think the reason is because there's a visual change. With background music, it's just kind of there to supplement or complement your whole video. So that doesn't need to be as important. But like if this was just black, like this wouldn't make sense. So you want to have like a placeholder for everything and get that into place, kind of like a skeleton for the video. And then once you've done assembly, so we've organized our clips, and once you've done the storyline, you've got that all together, then what you would do is start to bring in the music and effects. So what I would do is first start to tighten up the video with transitions and cutaways. So even if your jump cuts, they should all be in place. Maybe there's a couple places where, let's say like we jump to two clips here. So right here, so right there, I actually want this to switch into maybe like a jump cut closer to my face. So one thing that's really important to note if you are using Premiere is that with the latest version of CC, they've got these tabs at the top, and this is really helpful because it kind of follows the same workflow that I'm I'm following here. So you've got assembly. You wonder where I got the name. You've got assembly where you're putting all the storyline pieces together. If you jump to editing, now you've got your effects panel here, and you can start to add stuff. And then with the color, you can start to color grade. You've got your Lumetri color, you've got your scopes and stuff. And so I think I really only use those three primarily. Of course, you can go through each phase as you want, but that kind of follows my template here, and those are the three that I use. So assembly, you've got all the storyline. You can really do that for the first two steps of my process. And then with the editing, this is where we start to add color correction, stuff like that. Now, what I would recommend doing is first creating an adjustment layer. So if we go to the master sequence here, this is what the footage originally looked like. And then I just add a subtle color grade to it. So you really notice it, like the shadows, my face gets a little bit brighter and just looks a little more styled. So what we can do is we already have one, so I'll just drag this in here. And you actually want to make sure, if you do have a screen capture or some kind of media above that, you actually want to drag that to the next line and then put the adjustment layer below it so that it's just being applied to your actual face or video. Obviously, if you don't have a face cam or anything like that, then you don't need to do this, but then I would just cut it around. So obviously we have the intro, we don't want it to be applied, but then once you've got that in the assembly, jump over to color if you want to do that, and we can add a LUT. So I always go to creative, and there was one I just started using. I think it was this SL Golden, I believe, or Rush. Yeah, this one here. Obviously that's a little intense, but then I just scale it back to like 40% intensity. You can just see the difference there. It's just a little bit nicer, more cinematic. Kind of got that teal and orange going. So you would get your adjustment layer, and then you can start to add your transitions and cutaways. So in terms of effects, so if we jump back to the editing, kind of got ahead of myself here, but if we go back to presets and under my effects, and you'll see I actually have a pack here that I'm using. This is a pack from YC Imaging. This is kind of the only pack that I've bought for transitions. I'm kind of testing out a few and looking at a few, but this is the one I've been using because it's just simple. So like the zoom out effect, I'll use like out of the intro. One thing with this is that you do have to kind of nest any clips that aren't native resolution. So if you remember, I scaled this up to 4K from HD. So I actually go to nest, and then if I was doing that zoom out, I could apply that. I'll just quickly render that out, and that just kind of has a nice transition from the intro. It's kind of this like epic cinematic sequence, and then once I play it, just zooms out like that. What's cool is that the rings in the middle are scaling down anyway, so it kind of looks like you're pulling away and then coming back in. So there's little things like that. So this is under the editing tab for the for step 3 and 4. This is where you're adding your transitions, your cutaways, and then you go to your color for step 4 and start to add your color correction, and then you start adding music in this phase as well. So it's nice to already have them in here. So let's just say, all right, I'm gonna use tropical summer vibes or whatever. I usually start my music under after the intro. So if we just zoom this in a bit. And what's nice about Premiere is it lets you solo channels. It's just easier to work with than ScreenFlow. So we probably want that to start like right as the transition starts. And I usually write it around -24. And I actually have keyframes for different parts of the song. So like you can see here the waveform gets a little bit bigger. So I actually jump it down to either -28 or so, or sometimes I'll go to like -34 because you can hear the difference. So it might be kind of hard for y'all to hear. I'll turn this up, but so you can see it kind of ducks down even though it's a big impact. So if I unsolo this, you can hear that. Another thing you'll notice is that my audio here is pretty low, and what you can actually do is just hit audio, I believe, audio gain here, and then you say normalize peaks. So it just brings everything up a little bit because you can see if we go back, that's at -8, but it'll actually normalize that to 0.
We're in a groove somewhere.
Nothing's distorting, but it's actually just, a little bit louder.
Have you ever been at a party or...
So obviously I haven't edited this or anything, there's tons of mistakes, but then that's kind of where I ride the audio levels. And really, I mean, that's the 4-stage editing workflow in a couple minutes. I mean, that's how I will set everything up. I'll go through the assembly stage where I've obviously got all my clips, but I'll just arrange them in folders, keep everything neat, and then replicate that structure inside of the assembly tab in Premiere. So I've got music, I've got footage and assets, and then I'll start to build the storyline in assembly, and then under the editing tab, I'll start to add effects and add my color correction, my transitions, my cutaways, any jump cuts I need. For example, I was saying, under that one clip, right around here, if I wanted to jump into 150 or something, just like a tighter shot, it's a great freeze frame, like something like this.
But after
it just kind of cuts away. Then you could totally do that there, and this is what I would do in the 3rd or 4th step. And I think really the idea of any workflow or process is to speed up your workflow. And this is something I've just been doing in the last couple of weeks, really the last couple of months with my videos. ScreenFlow just doesn't handle video very well. It's great for screen capture, and I have a really great system where I record my audio and my screen in ScreenFlow, and then I export that at 4K. I actually record because it's a 5K iMac, so I record from 5K and I compress it to 4K so that it matches when I bring it into Premiere. And I think it just speeds up my process, knowing that when I get into Premiere, all I have to focus on first is getting the storyline done, and then I'll worry about color correction and stuff, because you really want to prioritize things. Sometimes I've been running late to get a video up, and I've got to get out the door or something, so I've got to get the video done and uploaded. So my knowing that, like, maybe if I don't add music or if I don't add color correction, this can still go up. Now, it's very unlikely that I'll let that happen, but it's just good to know that, if all else fails, the story is in place, you're telling a good story, or you're explaining everything well, and that's really how I edit my videos. Like I said, I'm not using ScreenFlow. I'm still using it to capture my screen, iPhone. It is just a little bit buggy right now. It's painful when you've been working for an hour or two on a scene, and you've been saving all along, and then it just crashes and you lose all that work. It's stuff like that that really just started to bug me. Now, I have played around with Final Cut a little bit, and I'm still messing with it. There's not really a full verdict on that, but I think I'll probably put a full video kind of comparing the two coming up soon. But that's really the process for editing my videos. I have those 4 steps, and it's always important. I just wrote down, originally this is going to be a 5-stage workflow, but really it's just those 4 steps. But it's always important to watch it back, and this is something that I kind of neglected to do a couple of years ago, and I sometimes still try and avoid it, just because it's painful, for a 10-minute tutorial that you've been working on for 6 hours, and you know it so well, you don't want to hear it one more time. But it's so crucial, because that's going up forever on YouTube. Obviously you can delete it, but some of my most popular videos, I wish I had just tightened up a little bit, or just edited a little bit better. And I can't now because it's permanent. So it's always worth doing a final pass through. I can't tell you how many times I find little mistakes, and even in the assembly phase or in the storyline phase, I'll kind of be a little sloppy when I'm cutting stuff together, and I'll forget that I was being sloppy. But in one thing I would add, actually, for assembly, there's one kind of critical step I would mention, is when you are going through the assembly phase, if there are scenes where you're just kind of jumping over stuff quickly, or like, let's say that we wanted this to be a jump cut, but we're in the assembly phase right now, or the storyline phase, then what you would do is you could actually just add a marker. So you can, if you don't know where that is, just go to marker, and you can say add marker. That's just M for Premiere, and you can actually name that marker. So say like jump in 150%, right? And then, you can watch it back.
And you're watching this video. But after
and then you can see, and then you can always double click it, see what it is. Or if you know, like maybe jump cuts are always going to be orange markers, then that's an orange marker. And then I always, for ScreenFlow stuff, because I sometimes do like zoom in on a certain part of a video, so maybe like find something here, like
I found it because
so just around here, like right before I click on the app. Let's go right around here. It's a little bit difficult to video edit and stream on your computer. Anyway, yeah, so like right around here, it's like right before I tap on the app icon, I might want to zoom in on the app icon or something. And what I could do, because it takes time to have to, if you are using these tabs, to go into editing, find that clip, hit a keyframe on position and scale, do it where you want it, and then go back. So what I actually will do is I'll just set a marker. So I'll just hit M, and actually I think it's, what is it? Yeah, so add a marker, and like I said, you can add text, or you can say blues are, call out, or zoom in parts for your screen capture, something like that. So that's really, really helpful for all those editing, because it really helps you focus on, okay, we're just getting the story done, and then layer 2 is going to be getting all the effects. We're going to get like music, we're going to get transitions, we're going to get the cutaways for zoom ins, and then we can focus on the colors again, and then add music, and then we'll do a final pass through. So that's all I was saying. It's really important to remember to do those things. If you are kind of throwing it together, it can be easy to forget that you were going to go back and add a screen capture. For my last video, actually, we can go to the sandstorm tutorial, and this was kind of a beast to edit, but right here, for almost every clip, so this top layer right here is going to be the screen capture, I think. Yeah, so right here, I'm talking about how you can go to the window and show certain panels, right? So I just zoom in like that, and that's really nice. Oh, thank you. Good call. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot I was still in face cam. I'll go over it again. But yeah, so I was just saying for the kind of the cutaway thing I was talking about, this was from my last video. Then I'll like zoom in on like that, but that was something I added on the very last stage, because those things are really helpful to have for people, especially if someone's watching on their phone or a smaller device. It's really helpful to have that call out action. So that was something I added later. And I actually didn't set markers for this. It can sometimes be more painful if you're not used to editing markers or using them. I just kind of remember, and I'll just watch through. And one thing about not using markers is that it kind of forces you to watch the whole clip, because I'd actually gone through this entire video and it was ready to go, but none of these keyframes were in there for the screen capture, so I hadn't added the zoom in effect. And I actually didn't know where I wanted to add them in, because there's some places where I'm just talking about something general, so I don't need it. And so it actually kind of forced me to watch through the whole video again, and I actually found like one or two small mistakes that I wanted to take out. And you can never really watch your video enough. It might seem like you've watched it 1,000 times too many before you upload it, but it's really helpful to just watch it one more time. You will always catch something. And you can always just feel it out. But what I was saying about the other few steps is just that if you want to set a marker for those places, like let's say like right here, for some reason I wanted to zoom into the title, then you can go to add marker, and what you can do in Premiere, if you don't have a clip selected, there you go, hit add marker, and you can just double click that, and you can add a name. So if you want to say like cutaway, or if you know that, like I was saying, if you have specific colors for different effects, maybe reds are transitions and oranges or cutaways, or blue is like a jump cut, whatever you set that, then you can just go through and search for all the blue markers. That can be helpful. But yeah, that's all I was saying. And yeah, that's really my whole workflow. I mean, if y'all have any questions, feel free to jump in. I kind of ran over time. I got caught up talking about that, but I've got a couple minutes for questions before I gotta go. So if y'all have any, drop them in the comments. If you have your own channels that you're uploading to, you're working on, or any other video projects you're editing, drop them in the chat. I'll go check them out. I'd love to see what y'all are working on these days, and how you're liking the videos. Hopefully they're helpful, the live streams. But yeah, so feel free to drop them in there. This will be available again in a couple minutes, or later today on the channel. So if you're watching this back afterwards, after I stream, thanks for watching, thanks for joining. Hopefully this helped you guys. But yeah, also don't forget to join my Discord channel group. That's a great place for y'all to connect with each other. If you're a video editor, you want to meet other video editors or creators, and if you want to make suggestions for the channel, maybe you have live stream suggestions or want me to review a certain app, I'm always there to hear you guys out and hear what you have to say. And you can share your own work there. I'd love to check it out. I really would. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Any last questions? Again, if you are watching this back afterwards and you have a question, drop it in the comments. I try my best to reply to every comment, especially if it's a new video. I'll reply to every comment as it comes in. So if you remember a question later, you're watching something and you realize that I explained this really badly, just drop a comment and I'll do my best to help you all out. But there's tons of really cool stuff coming to the channel, guys. I'm really excited. I've got a ton of really cool videos coming, and another little fun surprise for y'all, which I just finished working on at 4 a.m. this morning. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Stay subscribed, like the videos, really helps me out. Lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Like I said, I'll spend 6 or 7 hours on a video, sometimes longer, upload it all. You sometimes forget that there's like other people on the side of the screen. So it's just helpful to know that y'all are enjoying it and appreciating it. The links to Discord should be in the description. If it's not, I apologize. Let me find that. Weird. I'll add it to the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, I don't know what it's doing. Also, I do still have my vlog channel. If y'all remember, you may have seen my face reveal video. I kind of announced it. But I do have a separate channel where I've been uploading vlogs for pretty consistently the last few months. Went on a ton of trips this year so far, so been vlogging that and documenting all of that great stuff. So if you're interested, okay, cool, you found it. If you're interested in that, there is a link for that in the description for sure. So yeah, I try and, it's a little bit crazy, but I do try and upload every week, at least once for Max Square, but I do upload at least once on both channels. So I'm uploading anywhere between 2 to 4 videos a week for both. So I've got a review and a tutorial for this channel, and then I'm uploading a vlog or 2 on that other channel. So that's in the description if you want to check that out. And yeah, but that's been it, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I forgot this was, gosh, it's hard managing your own stuff, but see you guys. Really appreciate you coming, and I will see you in the next one.